Hi to everyone. Today we're going to be doing completing the square. So to be able to complete the square, you need to have done some exercises on what we call the perfect squares or the notable products, which are three expressions. Today we're going to use two for this chapter, which are a plus b squared and a minus b squared. The third one is a plus b times a minus b, but we're not going to use that one today. These expressions are very useful. I recommend you to learn them by heart. They save time in exams. They avoid mistakes, and they help you to factorize, to solve equations, to a lot of things. And one of them is completing the square. So you need to know that when you have a plus b squared, the final answer is a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. And when you have a minus sign there it's the same, but with a minus sign on the first one. The second one doesn't have a minus sign because it's b times b minus b times minus b is b squared. Okay, so you need to understand this and have done some exercises. And if you haven't, I recommend you to watch our videos on perfect squares to be able to understand the completing the square. So what is completing the square? Okay, in the exercises of the notable products, you need to have done some things like this. For example, if you have an expression like this one, as you know how to do this product, you need to understand that this one can be factorized as x plus 1 squared. Why? Because if you understand that product, it's x squared times 2x times 1, which is 2x, times 1 squared, which is that one. So you need to be able to get an expression and factorize it into a perfect square. What happens when uh, you don't get a perfect square? So what happens when, for example, you get something like this? And that's not a perfect square. So what do? We we have to understand that this could be a perfect square, and that the 3 is the part that is not allowing us to have a perfect square. So how do we factorize it? How do we complete the square? So what we do is we create the perfect square that we want, or that these two first members would form, which would be this one. And this one here, x plus 1 squared, gives us a 1 that we don't need. So we subtract that 1. We subtract the part that doesn't have an x. So that basically, x plus 1 squared minus 1 would give us this first part of x plus 2x. And then we need a 3, so we add the 3. Okay? So minus 1 plus 3 is plus 2. So this means that this expression can be factorized this way by completing the square with a plus 2 that we don't have. Let's see if this is correct. Let's check it. So if we do x plus 1 squared is x squared plus 2x times 1 plus 1 squared. I have just done this. And then we have a plus 2. So this is x squared plus 2x. 1 plus 2 is 3. So that's correct. So our method worked. So this is basically the method of completing the square. We need to get to use the notable products, and if we don't have the exact notable product, we subtract what we don't need and we add what we need. Let's do some exercises, and you will see that you can use a method for this. Imagine you have something like this. Okay, exercise A, and this is the example. So we need to complete the square here. The first thing we need to understand is which notable product we should do, but it's very easy. what we need to do is we open a bracket. We always, if this one doesn't have anything there, we always use an x, okay? And which term do we use here? Well, if this is a plus, we use a plus, so that's a plus. We'll do one with a minus in the next one. Okay, so that's a plus. And then we put half of this term, okay? Half of the term that comes with an x. So 4x divided by 2, and it doesn't have an x. So we have to do 4x divided by 2x, which is 2, okay? So basically what we're doing is getting in the term that has an x, getting the coefficient and dividing it by 2. And that's squared. Okay, then we need to understand that this one would produce a 4 that we don't need because this one is this. So we don't need this 4, so we subtract the 4. And then we add whatever we have, which in this case is a minus 11, so that's it. So the perfect square would, the completing the square process would be, so that's 0. So the answer would be x plus 2 squared minus 15. Okay, and that would be the answer. Equals 0 because that's what we have here. Okay, so that's completing the square. We can check it because this one would x plus 2 squared would give us a 4. Minus 15 plus 4 is minus 11, which is what we have. Okay, so let's look at an example with a minus. So if we have something like this. Okay, and they ask us to complete the square. So again, what we do is we open a bracket. That's an x. That's a minus here. So we put a minus in our square. And then the coefficient of the x is 1. 1 divided by 2 is 1/2. And that's squared. So what do we get when we do this perfect square? We get x squared minus 2 times x times a half. Plus 1/2 squared, okay, which is x squared minus x plus 1/4. So what we don't need is the 1/4, so we subtract the 1/4, okay? Yeah. As we have the 1/4, we subtract the 1/4, and then we need the minus 13, so we put the minus 13. Okay, so that would give us x minus 1/2 squared, and then we need to do minus 1/4 minus 13. So that's common denominator is 4. So 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times 1 is 4, and 1 is 5. Okay, so that's let me check that very quickly. 4 times 3 is 12, 4 times 1 is 4, and 1, 5, yeah. So that would give us x minus a half squared minus 53/4, okay? And that would be equals 0, that would be the answer, because that's, okay? So easy. And you would always do this process. You get the sign, you look at the sign that you have here, and you put it in the perfect square. Then you look at the coefficient of the one, and you divide it by 2, and put it there. And you find in the perfect square which term you have, and you subtract it. And then you add or subtract whatever you had there at the start. Okay, so sometimes they give you something like this: 4x squared plus 8x plus 6 let's plus 12 equals 0. Okay, and they say complete the square. Okay, so the first thing that we need to understand, to always look in mathematics, is if we can simplify or factorize. And every term here can be divided by 4. So we could factorize, and we extract the 4 there, and that's x squared plus 2x plus 3 equals 0. And what we're going to then complete is this one, the square of that one. So open bracket, it's an x, it's a plus. 2 divided by 2 is 1. If we have this squared, we have 1 squared, so we subtract the 1, and then we have to add the 3. Okay, so it's x plus 1 squared. 3 minus 1 is 2, and that would be our completing the square. Okay, we could have another exercise where we have things multiplying, but we cannot factorize. For example, this one. So we would have two ways to solve in this. Let's do it on another page. So it was D, and we had 4x squared plus 2x minus 5 equals 0. So I could do it two ways. One way is I could divide everything by 4, as we did before. So I extract the 4. So that's x squared plus 2 divided by 4x, okay, minus 5 divided by 4 equals 0. And then I'll do this. Now let's do it like this. Okay, so we divide the page there. And so this one would give us the 4. That's 1/2 minus 5/4. Okay, so what the completing the square that we need to do it on this expression. Okay, so we follow the same method. We do a 4. We have an x here because the coefficient of x squared is 1. And then we have a plus sign. 1/2 divided by 2 is 1/4. And that's squared. 1/4, if we square it, is 1/16. So that's what we subtract. And then we have to add the minus what we had there. Okay, so the only thing we need to do now is the adding of or subtracting of the fractions. Common denominator is 16. 16 here. We multiply by 4. That's that. Okay. So again, what we have here is this. And then it's minus 21/16. Okay. And that would be the square completed. Okay, so that's one way to do it, where we have followed more or less the same process that we had before. Okay, so it's correct. So that's one way to do it. We have followed the process that we did before. Another way to do it is we don't factorize, and then we realize that this part here is a square too. So we could open the bracket, and then that would be 2x, because 2x squared is 4x squared. Okay, so we realize that that's a perfect square, and that what would we have to have here? Well, this term would be 2x times 2 times b. Okay, so if 2x times 2 times b has to be 2x. So if we do this, b has to be 1/2. Okay, so this perfect square would give us this. Okay, so we can check it here. That's 4x squared plus 2 times 2x times 1/2 plus 1/4. Okay, so we have 4x squared plus 2x plus 1/4. So this perfect square gives us this part. We need to subtract the 1/4, this 1 squared, and then we need to add the 5. Okay, so that would be 2x plus 1/2 squared, and then we have minus 1/4 minus 20/4. Okay, so we have this, and then that's 2x plus 1/2 squared minus 21/4. Okay, which we could check because we would have this over here. Let's check it. Good thing is you can always check if we want to spend the time. So that's the perfect square we have already calculated, gives us this, minus 21/4. Okay, 21/4 minus 21/4 plus 1 is minus 24. So that gives us 4x squared plus 2x minus 24, which is 5. Okay, which is correct. Okay, so that over here is also a way to do the completing the square of that expression. You have both here are correct. Okay, yep. So this is completing the square, very easy. Let's go over it. You need to understand the notable products. You have to, but the problem is that you don't have a notable product because the last part does not is not exactly the one of the notable product. So what we do is we put the first part, subtract what we don't need, and add what we were given. And for the notable product, you have to see if the coefficient of the x squared is 1. If it's 1, you put an x. If not, you can factorize, or you can find which number it is, or you can factorize, whatever you want. Okay, then the sign is the sign that you have here, and this coefficient is that divided by 2. Okay, and with that and subtracting what you don't need and adding what you were given, you have the completing square, and it's very easy. You just need to do some exercises now.